I was living in a mobile home with a friend of mine in 2001. I had moved in within the last few months. My room was in the back of the home at the end of a hallway. My friend usually went out on weekends and didn't get home until late. But when he did get home, he would almost always walk back and knock on my door to see if I was up so he could tell me about his outing. One Saturday night, I was in my room watching TV and didn't feel like talking because I was really into what I was watching. So, when I heard the door open and footsteps in the kitchen, I made up my mind to pause what I was watching and just stay quiet and act like I was already asleep when he came back and knocked on the door. After a minute or so, I heard him walking down the hallway towards my room, so I just sat still waiting for him to knock. When the footsteps stopped outside the door, I could hear him breathing, but there was no knock. I figured he was just standing there listening for me to make a sound indicating I was still awake so he could knock and tell me about his night. But he just stood outside the door breathing for about a minute until the sound of breathing stopped. I was expecting to hear him walk back to the living room and turn on the TV as usual, but there was nothing. No sound at all. I was beginning to get a little spooked at this point. Either he was still standing outside the door being as quiet as he could, or I just heard something terrifying. After 5 minutes or so of no sound, I finally got the courage to open the door and find out what was going on. As soon as I opened the door, I noticed that he wasn't there. There were no lights on and no indication that he was there at all. I looked out to see if his car was there, and it wasn't. I knew it was impossible for him to go back out and leave without me hearing him, so now I could feel my heart pounding. I went back to my room and closed the door. I was no longer concerned with the program I was watching. Instead, I was just waiting for him to get home so I could find out if he somehow managed to leave again without me hearing him. That was the only logical explanation for what I heard. But when he finally did arrive, he told me he was still more than an hour drive from home when this happened. I had a few more strange experiences in the home before I moved out, but this was the first and scariest of them all.